and there is unreasonably overload of physical work leading to adverse ergonomic problems. And you have the job stress, the different psychosocial factors which contribute to job stress, resulting in many psychosomatic diseases for which no specialized form of treatment is available. Hence the need for occupational health practice. And 1/3 of the adult life of the working population in the world is spent in the hazardous work environment. And estimated as per the IAOH, annually 120 million accidents, 200,000 fatalities annually from occupational accidents, and 68 to 160 million new cases of occupational diseases every year that will take place. This is the reason why we should have occupational health practice at the place of work. And more doctors are needed to carry out these functions and to practice occupational health. And you have challenges in occupational health, especially in the present day context with the new information technologies, automation. More and more industries are getting automated. When I joined BHEL 30 years ago, mostly manually operated machines were there. Now most of them are 100% mechanically operated, remotely controlled, including the cranes are remotely controlled. And newer chemicals and physical energies are being introduced into the manufacturing technology and newer biotechnologies. And moreover, your population is getting aged faster. When I joined BHEL 30 years ago, the average age of the employee at that time was around 23.5 or something like that. And when I retired a couple of years ago, it was around 47.8. So you can imagine your workforce is getting aged as you get older. And the growing mobility of the working populations from one state to another state, from one country to another country, from one continent to another continent. This again necessitates the importance of occupational health practice at the place of work. And there are again special problems of vulnerable groups and underserved populations. There are so much category here on underserved populations like handicapped and chronically ill. We are bothered about 100% fully fit population, but there are chronically ill people. That is the reason why we have to study the impact of health on work and the occurrence of new occupational diseases of various origins. This is constantly getting evolved. Newer and newer chemicals, newer and newer work practices, you get newer and newer problems. Unless a doctor is there at the workplace, it would be very difficult for him to see the changes which are taking place in the mobility. And you would be surprised to know only 5 to 10% have access to occupational health in developing countries. And even in developed countries, you have only 20 to 50% have access to the occupational health services. And doctors whom you have identified to carry out occupational health practice should be exclusively for occupational health. They should not be engaged in doing other clinical exigencies. And they should read about all work-related health problems. They should undergo properly conducted courses, and so that they are in a position to carry out occupational health practice. It is not often we see doctors perform multifarious activities apart from occupational health that takes away from the factory scenario, and often the work gets diluted. And occupational health is a specialty. It is a special branch of medicine. It requires exclusive attention by the doctors who are earmarked for occupational health. Whether a doctor who is so engaged should have some knowledge in data collection, analytical skills, and he has to derive inferences from whatever data he collects by doing these services. And you have to bear it in mind, this is not research oriented. Whenever you are working, we are not academicians working in research institutes. We are basically doctors who are performing the services. You are delivering the services on behalf of the management to the employees. And whatever service program you do, whatever data you collect out of your service programs, you can generate reports, and that will form the basis of future studies. And you have to document all your programs. This will go a long way. Many times I see doctors, my management is not helping me. My management is not appreciating my work. I used to ask them, at the end of the day, if you have done work for 6 months, you have done work for 1 year, you have to analyze what is it you have done in the last 6 months, what is it you have done in the last 1 year. Please document all your work so that the management will be too glad to assist you. As Sir Thomas Morrison Legg has said, the first medical inspector of factories, unless and until the employer has done everything means a substantial deal. The employee is often willing enough to do his share. That means that management should give, employees will cooperate, the doctors should perform the role as people who generate data and who analyze and who to infer, then actually occupational health practice will be very rewarding. This is what, as often said in clinical practice, it is at least as important to ask what man has the symptoms as it is to ask what symptoms the man has. This is extremely important in noting down the details at occupational health practice. And as Sir William Osler, in one of his famous quotes, has very beautifully outlined the duties of the doctor: observe, record, tabulate, communicate. Use your five senses. Learn to see, learn to hear, learn to feel, learn to smell, and know that by practice alone you can become expert. This holds 100% true as far as occupational health practice is concerned. This has summarized all your activities at the place of work. Certain glimpses. We have to have certain priorities in selecting the groups, and we should know the concentration of the hazards, then the gravity of the hazards. Then we can embark upon what are the parameters that we do. We can prescribe the test to be done, and the periodicity can be determined largely based on our experience. Many times people ask me how to go about the periodicity. Statutory medical examinations, your factory rules give you periodicity. But for most of the other vulnerable groups who do not find a place under hazardous group or dangerous operations in the factories or in the factory's rules, you still carry out medical examinations at regular intervals. You follow the morbidity pattern over a period of time, assess them at every year, every examination. If the morbidity is not increasing alarmingly or very substantial, small amount of increase in the morbidity, you can increase the periodicity. To cite an example, we were doing welders examination previously, every once in 2 years in the late 70s and in the early 80s. Based on the experience, what we have gained over these offered us at periodic medical examinations, we revised it to once in 5 years. And when we went into the literature, when the internet facilities came, and when we saw the International Institute of Welding, and the Medical Commission also suggests once in 5 years periodicity. You don't need to rely on textbooks or guidelines for periodicity. Based on your knowledge of the work environment, the hazard, and the morbidity pattern, you can arrive at our own periodicity and you can justify it. We had so many statutorily necessity examinations like gas service personnel, tool grinders, heat treatment, heat plant. Just an example to show how people under statutory examinations are subjected to medical examination. The respiratory response of these people, if you could see the grinders, gas plant operators, short blasters and canteen, vital capacity, post-vital capacity, FU1, FU1 percentage, almost remain the same. See, an occupational health practice, a doctor by doing this type of studies, he will be in a better position to say how these groups are faring in particular system. How the number of people who are covered from the year 86 to 2004 just goes to show what are the different programs like PMMP, periodic man maintenance program, well person screening, special programs for spouses and contract employees. You include all these employees, you put them the data into the graph and you will know how the pattern is changing over a period of time from 86 to 2004. If you look at it, 82, 85, prior to 82, we didn't have much data. It was in the few hundreds, about 600 to 700, the mean attendance of the periodic medical examinations. Over a period of time, people started to question in the beginning. Executives said, why occupational health? If we introduce this concept, then people will be apprehensive of the working environment. We will not be able to get them be productive. And the employees were scared that if you go for medical examination, they will be made unfit. So they were not willing to take part. As the years progressed, slowly this momentum gained and speed, and you started to see about 2,000, 2,300, on an average about 2,500 medical examinations are being carried out every year. So, epidemiological studies in industry, big question. People talk about epidemiology. Epidemiology is nothing but time, place, person, distribution of a disease. At what time the disease has taken place, who are the people who are affected, which place the disease is most often seen. This is a very commonest definition of epidemiology. Whatever the type of study you do, a cross-sectional study, you want to study about 200 people in your industry at one time, at a given point in time, it's a cross-sectional study. You do the same study year after year, it becomes a longitudinal study. You follow the same 100 people year after year, every 5 years, every 3 years, taking into account the people who have retired, people who have died, people who have entered into the study, keep them separate and follow the same people. Because of Framingham study, which was started in the year 1952, about 45,000 people who got enrolled into the scheme. At the end of 12 years, only 5,800 people remained. And today you are studying about coronary risk factors. You talk about the most critical factors like smoking, sedentary life, lipidemia, hyperlipidemia, diabetes mellitus, hypertension, all these risk factors because they were the byproducts of the Framingham study. Because Framingham study was done, because Oslo study was done, preventive medicine, which has helped in today's practice of cardiology or the preventive cardiology. No amount of science and technological development, no big hospitals, corporate hospitals, big cardiologists, latest angioplasty techniques, all those things will not improve the cardiac health status of this population. Only preventive health care, especially if it is done through occupational health services at industries, you can definitely decrease the morbidity of the cardiovascular system. And repeat cross-sectional studies come under prospective studies, and same persons in the follow-up studies, you call them as cohorts. Very simple, epidemiology made very simple in occupational health practice. In the early 80s, today we talk about coronary risk factors. When I studied the risk factors in the early 80s, it was a revelation. About 3,000 medical examinations, about 35 years, how they were distributed in executives, non-executives, workers, etc. How people have one risk factor, more than one risk factor. Mind you, this study was done in the early 80s. With the help of a calculator, with the help of a tally manual worksheet, we never had any computer. I had to do the manual tally. At that time, we sent this report to Dr. Botik, the Chief of Cardiovascular Division, IAOH. This is what he has to say at that time. Dear Dr. Chandrasekaran, thank you very much for your letter dated 14th May 1986 and for the enclosed paper entitled A Pilot Study on Coronary Factors Distribution. May I congratulate you on this excellent innovative work in BHEL company. Your study is of great value because of the description of coronary risk factors in developing countries which merits special interest. Mind you, in the late 80s. Even today we are talking about coronary risk factors, but this was realized by the enterprise way back in 80s. The same way, welders were screened for 13 years. See, epidemiology will be useful. If you are going to see the same group year after year, you simply see the percentage, descriptions. You don't need to have a statistician with you or an epidemiologist with you. A simple MBBS doctor can do all these things, provided he documents all his data in a proper format. Manually you can analyze it, put it in a graph, then you will get all these interesting things. How welders differ from smoker controls, non-smoker controls, etc. and so on and so forth. I am not going into the details. I just want to share with you. You can generate a lot of data, you can infer useful information. It was another study on hypertension follow-up in an industry. Mind you, we started it here in the year 1985, finished it in the year 1995. A group of hypertensives were followed, and just to give you an example, salt eating behavior, how it has improved from 85 to 95. This is a very interesting study. Compliance with the treatment was only 65% in the year 85. Compliance increased to 99% in the year 1995. Why I am sharing to you this, because we still talk about hypertension control, diabetes control, etc. This is very important, and you can, by doing these studies, you can convince your management how effective your presence is in the industry. Intake of salt, food items, how they have decreased over a period of time from 85 to 95. That is why the bar looks bigger in 95. That is people who have stopped taking salty food items. The BP response, how it has come down, that both systolic and diastolic. These are all simple things over a long period of time. I am not a statistician. I do not like mathematics. But simple, simply knowing the values, data in proper format, you can derive your inferences. Is epidemiology useful in occupational health practice? Yes, of course. As I told you earlier, you can classify different occupational groups like executives, supervisors, and other tradesmen, workers, and then see how these people are taking part in examinations. You can put this on a plot of graph and then tell the management. How the cholesterol levels are different over a period of time in different age groups. Year-wise trend from 92 to 97, how the decreasing trend of cholesterol is noted in a group of people. All these aspects is very easy to do in your day-to-day practice in factories. How the occurrence of new cases in 5 years' time from 92 to 97, to cite an example, hypertension, diabetes, and obesity. What is the pattern of occurrence of new cases? Around about 4%, around about 5%. How it is taking place per annum. You can tell the management what is your requirement for next 5 years. You can plan your requirements proactively. You can acquire equipment, acquire expertise. Is research possible in occupational health practice? We are not researchers, as I told you. We are service providers. But whatever work you do in your industry, you can generate data and then make it as a research paper. So one of my papers on non-auditory effects of noise got me the prestigious BHEL Award way back in 1986. Why I am trying to tell you this, you can observe certain levels in exposed, not exposed. There are glucose levels. You can expose the free fatty acid levels. You can see the total lipid levels in the exposed, non-exposed, and then come to your conclusions. The same way, many of the organizations have experienced, offered the voluntary retirement scheme to their employees. So, we did a study at that time in the year 1999. About 2,000 employees went out on our voluntary retirement scheme, and we studied the disease load, how it was pre and post VRS. The post VRS has seen less number of cases. So people with more disease problems have opted out during the VRS, taking into account a lot of money which they got because of the VRS scheme. Again, this goes to show how these type of schemes can be analyzed from our viewpoint, not necessarily, but the management never asked me to analyze any of these things. All these things we have generated on our own to create interest, to make your presence felt. At the end of the day, what have you done in the last 30 years? You worked as an occupational health practitioner. This is what you have to share with young people so that they can do the same thing in their own industry. Then mortality studies. You are very well aware. We are only doing morbidity studies most of the time. Morbidity will not actually reflect the problem in the community. So we have to have certain studies on mortality. But unfortunately in our country, you do not have standardized mortality rates for comparison. Standardized mortality rates will be available only if your general community health is improving fast, health services, public health services. So they generate data scientifically. Most of our data in this country, the health data which you get from government hospitals and from the government is not far from reliable. You can't have your data compared against those data, because if somebody is dying of myocardial infarction in your industry, standardized mortality rate, it should be higher than the SMR of the general population. But we do not know the general population's SMRs. So under these conditions, it's very difficult. We attempted a study from, in the late 90s, and about 2 years, 145 deaths we analyzed, and we found out heart diseases occupy 27%, accidents, then alcoholism, cancers, then suicides and murders are about 30.5%. This is only the tip of the iceberg. For 2 years I did the study, and I found it was very difficult for me to get into the cause of death in the death certificates. Most of the death certificate carried the cause as sudden cardiac arrest. What was the preceding problem which led to cardiac arrest? No one has written. Sudden cardiac arrest. This is, every remark was there, cardiac arrest. Actually, heart had to stop if a man had to be pronounced dead. But unfortunately, for epidemiological purposes, for statistical purposes, when you do not have the cause, what is the primary cause? Pulmonary tuberculosis, secondary cardiopulmonary, then the heart cardiac arrest. So you have sequence of events which led to that hypertension, then acute left ventricular failure, then cardiac arrest. It's okay, but all cases are cardiac arrest. That's a problem with our statistics in this country. So strategies for the future. We will have multiple hazards. We have been all the time concentrating on individual hazards. You will have the sub-threshold cumulative effect of multiple hazards. This is again, we have to study, focus our attention in the years to come. Then individual differences in the effects on health. Definitely, individual idiosyncrasies are there. As occupational health practitioners, you have to take into account the individual idiosyncrasies. The ergonomic factors and workload. In our country, we never practice ergonomic practices at the place of work. We were the first people to employ an ergonomist, a doctorate in ergonomics and physiology in our industry. And today more and more industries should come forward to analyze their workplaces, how ergonomically they are all designed and manufacturing practices are followed as per the ergonomic principles. If you implement these ergonomic principles, it's a common sense practice, it will not cost you much. You can save lots and lots of money in improving their productivity. Many organizations now have started to seek the expertise of the ergonomists to evaluate their work situations, how ergonomically they are designed and they are being used. The key priorities issues will be in the coming years, the information technology and occupational health. More and more the role of information technology. Mental health and occupational stress, job stress no doubt will be occupying the top position, and prevention of work-related diseases. These are the key areas where we have to focus our attention on. The future health promotion programs, we should not just stop with that. We have to go on doing certain individual behavior changes such as relaxation techniques, exercises, diet, cognitive and behavioral skill training are to be used in a variety of ways to avoid or to reduce or to cope with workplace stress, because job stress will be the challenge of the future. It is not enough if a doctor in an industry just practices this clinical medicine and occupational health. We should go on more and more, have posture clinics, back pain clinics, neck pain clinics. People want different terminologies. You may be doing the same services, but have different clinics in your industry. People attend, they register their names for those clinics and come and attend those clinics. And you invite some specialists from outside, or a physiotherapist or an occupational therapist to teach them certain simple skills. Even if you are going to teach them simple breathing exercise, a pranayama, it will go miles and miles. It will enhance the improvement in lifestyle and effective control of chronic maladies. The broader perspective plan for the next decade will have to be, you have to limit the redundancy of the workplace health programs and services. We go on repeating, as R.S.F. Schilling has said in his textbook of occupational medicine, he said most of the time factory medical officers are busy with their periodic medical examinations. They don't do anything else. So what is the effect of this? What is the impact of these health examinations? You re-evaluate your health examination programs and more effectively link existing programs and services and establish a more open and comprehensive process for identifying problems and establishing health promotion and health protection priorities. It is often said by Dr. William Osler, the good physician treats the disease, the great physician treats the patient who has the disease. It's a very famous axiom of Sir William Osler. And I once again thank the organizers of the Mumbai branch of IAOH for having given me this opportunity to share my 30 years of experience. Thank you very much for attention.
And the different programs, and on the ways to conduct studies in a very simple fashion was very illuminative. Thank you so much, Dr. Chandrasekaran.
To present a small memento to Dr. J. for chairing this session. We now move on to the next session, which is the first scientific session sponsored by Dr.N.K.Chandrasekaran vaccines. May I request Dr. Krishnan and Dr. Sapat please come into the dais and chair the sessions. I would also request Dr. Shafiqullah please come to the dais as well. Heading occupational health services for Siemens for the last 20 years. He is presently working as medical consultant Siemens Enterprise Communications Private Limited. He is also the Vice President at Vascular Concepts. He is attached at Jupiter Hospitals, Thane as a lifestyle management consultant and also at individual hospitals. He is also the Managing Director of Lifestyle Enhancing Solutions India Private Limited. He was recently awarded the IAOH Fellowship Award at the 60th National Conference held at Hyderabad in February 2010, and he received many orations at the national level as well. With him, we have Dr. S.M. Sabatnekar, who is a double MD with a management diploma. He was a professor of community medicine at Grant Medical College, a former director at Hartnett Institute, a founder director of clinical research, education and management academy, past president of IAOH, recipient of CKR Oration, currently the medical director of Carbon Life Sciences.